bit sad I couldn't actually go to Sweden today, because I always like going, and I worked on Malmö City Tunnel, the Triangle station, some years ago. So also used to work in Sweden. So it's always a pleasure going. But this is an online webinar. That's how we have to do it. And I'm Danish, but I'm doing this in English, so you won't have any problems understanding my Danish language. But if there's any Swedish questions, just raise them or put them in the chat, and we'll take them as we go. So my name is Kristian. I'm an architect with Arup. Arup is a global company, 15,000 people. We started out as an engineering company back in the 40s, and since then we kind of branched out to all kind of different disciplines, all kind of engineering disciplines, other kinds of consultancy, and also architecture. And we have an office in Copenhagen. And this is a project that we did as a global team, but we ran it out of the Copenhagen office. And I'm going to talk you through the architecture of Cityringen, our thoughts, and of course how we used brick for the project. Let's see if I can change this one. Yeah. So about the project. So those of you who have been to Copenhagen in the last decades or so know there's already a metro line, which is a yellow line on the map here, which opened in 2002. And in 2007, we got the commission to design a new circle line, which is the orange line. So it's a project we started out 2007. It opened in 2019. So compared to doing a buildings projects, these station and train projects does take a really long time. We have also worked on the connection, the branch off to Nordhavn, which is a blue line that opened in 2020. They're currently building the extension to the south part, which is the blue M4 that will open in 2024. And recently we worked on a feasibility study for the next line. So it's an ongoing project, but this one went from 2007 to 2019. As you can see, the project is a circle line. It will connect all the kind of the neighborhoods in the inner city, and it will connect also to regional trains and to commuter trains and so on. When you do a project like this, it's really about the people and the very many stakeholders. And this is a photo we took from some kind of workshops we had. We kind of moved our office into the city, and we started explaining about the project. We got the input from the various people. So there's the people who are living in the city. There's also the owners, which is the city. There's the train operators, of course, and all these people, they have different objectives, different desires, and in a way we try to, I think, to make a connection between that and to make something that kind of talk to everybody. The project is 17 stations, and like I said, it connects many different neighborhoods. So on one hand, it's a project that has an individual kind of impact on specific neighborhoods, but it also works on a city scale, and it's that kind of dilemma that we work with. So that is the architectural challenge put in writing. So on one hand, we want to design 17 stations that is a system, but on the other hand, we also want them to have an individual architectural identity, and we want them to be part of the city. So we started out with a kind of a typical station and the qualities that we wanted. These are based on the stations from the first metro line, what the client said to us, what they said, we want more of the same. And we said, okay, we'll give you more of the same qualities, but we'll also do something new. But these diagrams shows what the stations are about. So it's a compact station, 44 meter long, fully automatic, driverless trains. There's no people working in the stations. There's no ticket gates or anything like that. It's one large space, so you come down from street and you can see the whole station, and that's really important for the feeling of safety and wayfinding. In terms of connections, there's a lift that goes directly from street to platform level, and there's a main stair, and then there's always a set of escalators going down and a set of escalators going up, and they're all visible and easy to find and easy to use. All stations have platform screen doors, which provides a safe station environment, and also a clean one, as you don't get all the dirt from the trains inside the station. It's all based on a 5.5 meter module. That's the same module as the train. So the train and the station matches, and that goes from everything to the large structures down to architectural finishes, the way we put in technical equipment like cameras, signage, speakers, and so on. So it's all using the same module, and that also means that the design you're doing for one station in terms of architectural detailing can be applied to all stations. And then there's a clean split between what is a public space and what is a back of house space. So the station is a cut and cover station. That means you cut a large hole in the ground, and then you put in your station elements and you put a lid on top. And what we see is the white is the public space, and the gray is all the technical space that you need around it for ventilation, power to the trains, and those kind of things. And then daylight was an important feature for the first metro line, and that's something we wanted to keep. So it's about getting light into the station, which saves energy, but it's also about making a visual connection. So when you're standing outside, you can actually look into the station, and when you're in the station, you can see where you are in the city. So it's really making that tight integration between urban space above ground and urban space below ground. And in a way, we see these stations more as an urban space than a station, because you're only waiting for a couple of minutes for your train. So it's not like your typical main station. So when we had those qualities turned into a typical station, then we had these 17 different sites, and as you can see, they're quite different. Some of them are prominent, very high profile spaces in the city center. Some are in areas of Copenhagen that needed development or were a bit run down. So quite different in character. We also had different passenger numbers. That means that some stations need to be slightly bigger. Some stations connect to other train lines, so they need to have different connections in and out of them. And then there's also the ground conditions. That means that some stations are deeper and some are closer to the ground. And by combining our typical station with the urban context, we actually got these 17 different stations that all follows the same logic, but they're actually quite different. I think there's only 2 of them that are exactly the same. And that's so we can see what we had created rather than a system was actually a family. And this is a photo I've shown to different people, and those old enough know that this is the Osman family from the 70s, but it doesn't really matter who they are. It's just the point is that we tried to design this as a family where all the stations are part of the same family, but they're also slightly different. They have their own kind of individual character. And one of the things we really wanted to do was to make a connection to the city and to express this kind of family and different family members' identity through the cladding inside the station. The first metro line were all done in kind of the same gray fiber concrete paneling, had that inside. They all looked very much the same. That was all about making the architecture the same for all stations. For this one, we wanted them to be more different. So our first thought of how can you do that? You can just choose a lot of colors. So we looked at a color card like this one. We thought, could we come up with 17 different colors? Would it actually be possible to identify a station by color if you have that many? If you have 5, it's easy, you can use the primary colors. But if you're going into 17, then we thought it will probably be difficult, because we really wanted the stations to be easy to find, so easy that you can kind of tell a visitor or tell a child that meet me at the specific station, and then they would know that station on the architecture, on the color. So we thought we would move away from just using paint on the wall and actually doing something else. So we started exploring many different options. These are some 1 to 500 scale models of the inside of a typical station, working with different colors, different patterns, and so on, and starting to explore how can we give this kind of character to the stations. And when you do that, there's also other things. Of course, there's quite strict technical requirements for finishes inside stations. So first of all, I guess that's more architectural than than technical, such as that we actually wanted it to appear non-technical. We didn't want this to look like it was designed for trains. We wanted to look like it was designed for people. So we want to use some materials that you don't always use inside stations, but maybe you use in a residential context. We wanted to have a real urban connection, so they should be urban materials, friendly. The station should be a welcoming place, a place where you just feel safe and you feel in a good, that you're in a good atmosphere. We also wanted the materials that we're using to be self-finished, and that means that we don't really want it to use any applied finishes like paint, because it always tends to get scratched after some time. It's hard to maintain, and also we wanted to have like an architectural honesty to the materials. You can see what they're made of, and then we also wanted the materials to be modular, so it's something you can bolt to the wall and you can disassemble again. And then of course the technical requirements. Fire is a really strict one, so that means you can't use materials that can burn. It can't have any impact on mobile phones, so you can't really use metal as a cladding inside the station, because that interferes with the mobile phone signal. And of course it should be really low maintenance and high protection against vandalism. So it has to be something that can take the use of a station that's going to be there for many years. So we started looking at the city, and these are just a few of the sites where the stations are. What does the city look like? What are the qualities of Copenhagen? What are the materials of Copenhagen? So of course you see a lot of brick, you see stone, you see glass, and other materials. But the real important thing for us was to make a connection to the city. So this very early sketch kind of shows an idea of, could the station cladding in a specific station really look like the buildings on top? So in the yellow part of town where you have buildings in sandstone, you'd have sandstone in the station. In the part of town where there's more white buildings, it would be white, and in areas with red brick, it would be red brick. So it would make that kind of connection, and people would be able to identify the station based on their neighborhood. Then we started working again back to what is patterns, what is the expression inside the station. And there's no public art in these stations. It's just what you see is the station. And at the same time, we didn't want it to pretend that we were artists. So like the image on the left that we actually thought looked pretty good, we thought that wasn't really the right approach, because that's us starting to be artists and starting to look at, should there be a yellow line? How long should the blue one be? Instead we wanted to create a pattern. So it's just the material and the pattern we created that gives the kind of identity to the station. So the picture on the right is more kind of the concept we wanted to go with. Another important aspect when we talk about these finishes, and this by the way is a photo of one of the Finnish stations, but it shows the movement of people inside the station. So it's all about how people move through the space. We talked a lot at an early stage about, should we have lighting that would do something funny, like the light would change color, or should we have media screens on the wall, so it would be like a large digital piece of art. But again, we actually wanted to do something that was simple, low key, and kind of was dynamic by the way people moved through the space. So that's finishes that has a different reflection as you walk through them, or maybe changes color, but it's all something you experience as a passenger by moving through the space. So we did a lot of testing. We did a lot of model studies, and we started out by, as all architects do, by having a lot of scale models, one-to-one models. These are cardboard and plastic models, but this one shows one of the big themes, and that is that relation between a shiny surface and a non-shiny surface, and how you apply that to finishes that are curved, or has like a ripple, or has a straight line, and that gives that kind of play of light and reflection. Here's another example. It's a really simple model made out of it's actually what you put inside a stapler, but it's just, again, sees just by changing the direction of a very simple material and the way it picks up the light, actually creates kind of variation and a changing station appearance. And here's another one getting into scale using the module approach. What happens if it's the same module but you rotate it slightly? And another one, and this just shows how you can create different patterns of the same element by moving that slightly to the side or by recessing some of them more than others. Then you get this light and shadow of light and this play of light and shadow. And here's another example, and you put a scale rule on to see the size. So this could almost be like a one-to-one mock-up of a ceramic panel. And we did a lot of model tests. So we always kind of went from working almost in 1-to-1 to working in 1-to-100 or 1-to-500 at the same time to test what happens at the large scale and what happens at the small scale. And these are mock-ups for the skylights or small models of the skylights and how they could be placed in the urban space. And of course, we also used a lot of digital simulation. So this is a 3D rendering of a ceramic panel where we're working with different textures of the glazing, and again also how you cut up the elements to create this kind of variation. And then we had this model made, so that's a 1-to-20 20 scale model. So inside this is a station, and you see the wheels on the right hand side is that you can actually adjust the light. So in this one we can simulate all the lighting inside a station, and we can replace the cladding panels. We also did the light as lighting designers, and this model is so accurate that you can test the actual light levels, you can adjust the color temperature of the light and so on. And this is as a grainy photo from back in the early days of digital cameras. But that shows how we're working, and the panel on the wall, which is red in this one, could be replaced. The light could be adjusted and so on. And it's our client, Metroselskabet, on the left hand side. And we also use this model as a communication tool. So instead of always just discussing drawings, we just discussed models. And that was a really good tool for the design development. And these are photos from inside, so you see how realistic that model actually is. So it was a really good working tool. We also worked in 1-to-1 with the materials and with our lighting team. And of course, it's really important that the materials reflect the light in the right way, so it gives the right light level you want. And these are all the light, all the small numbers are light levels you'll get on the different materials. And it also shows the palette of the material that we're working on. So on the left hand side are metal finishes that we're using for ceilings rather than wall cladding. There's of course brick in the center one. There's different kind of natural stone. There is glass, and that's kind of the width of the materials that we're using. And this is a 1-to-1 test we did inside the Metro office. So we worked inside the client's office. We had our team sitting there, and we found out by accident that the atrium space inside the client's office had the same dimensions as one of the platforms, so we could use it for 1-to-1 testing. And this one is testing different light fixtures on the left hand side. On the right side you see different reflector panels that will be sitting in the ceiling, and then you see the lux level you'll get on the floor. So it was a practical way of testing things, but it also meant that we got I think a really good interaction with the client, because they could kind of see what we were doing on a daily basis. It was not like we had meetings when we had a deadline. We had like a constant flowing deadline, but it also meant we got constant feedback from them, which was really a great way of working. And then that's what we came up with, claddings for 17 different stations. So there's the red one is ceramic, there's natural stone, there's glass, and there's brick, and then there's different combinations. And I'm just gonna talk you through some of them. So like I said earlier on, we wanted to make an urban connection that it could look, or it could refer to the different urban areas, but we didn't, as we started working, we didn't want them all to be too direct. Some of them are quite direct, and some more talking to a quality of the space. And this one is a station that's located in a street that's quite known for its green, beautiful trees. So inside the station we have this ceramic cladding in green. So when you come to this station, you know that's your green station. And it's also placed in a municipality in Copenhagen that has green as a kind of brand color. So there's a good connection to that. Another one is this prominent church, but there's a station just in front, and for that we choose a natural stone that has like a light sandy color. Again, that's more like a direct connection to the church and that whole urban space around the church. For the main station and a couple of other stations where you can transfer to normal trains, we use the red color because, as you can see on the left hand side, the normal trains, not the metro trains, in Denmark are red, and the logo of the train company is also red. The main station is red on the inside. So you know, when you come to a red station, it means that it's possible for passengers to transfer to other stations. So this one, you could say, rather than being urban contextual, is more talking about the function of those transfer stations. And again, this is a ceramic panel, 2.7 meters long, so quite long panel, made in Germany. And one of the reasons why we have this cladding principle of a concrete wall and a cavity and a cladding is that means we're able to conceal all the cables that are needed inside the station behind the cladding, so you never see any visible cables. Everything is neatly hidden behind that. Another one that is also talking to what happens is one of the stations that are placed in a park where a lot of amateur football clubs have their home. And so in this station we use the colors inspired by all the different team jerseys, and you can see that on the underside, the kind of the lines on the colored lines on the white ceramic panel. And it works in a way that when you're entering the station from a train, you look up and you see all these colors. But if you come from the other side, because the panel is tilted, then you only see a white station. So there's a little kind of a surprise in these in some of these stations, and you see different things depending on view angle. You can also see in this photo the cladding in the roof. So we have these large aluminium clad ceilings where at night we shine up light and they work as light reflectors, and during day they help reflect the daylight into the station. And then this one is a good example of where we use brick, and this neighborhood is quite known for being a working class area. Not so much anymore, but that's what it traditionally was, and it has all these red traditional buildings. So we wanted to make a station made out of red brick, and I think brick is a good example of a material that you rarely see inside modern train stations. But I think it gives that kind of warmth and friendliness, and give another quality than just a technical space. And the brick we used are the very long Columba brick from Peterson, and again we actually used it in a different way probably than what it's typically used for, because we turned it upside down, so you see the long side as you're outside, and again we didn't want to pretend that this was a traditionally made brick wall. It's a mechanically fixed brick. It's not done with mortar. It's not a load-bearing brick wall. So we thought it would be too fake in a way if we tried to make it look like a normal wall. So we took I think the quality of the brick, that kind of variation, the warmth, the quality of something handmade, but we put it into like a technical modular environment. And on the left hand side you can see, looking straight up, you can see those very large skylights that, by the way, are also used for smoke ventilation in case of a fire. So they actually open and smoke can come out, and you see the reflector panels. Another one of the brick stations is this one. where there was an existing building, the one on the left-hand side, that had not a brick. It actually is a brick building, but it does also have a slate facade. And we thought that slate was quite beautiful, the kind of variation, but we wanted to combine the two, the quality of the brick and the quality of the slate. And for that one, we chose like a more gray yellowish kind of brick. And you can also see in close up one of the skylights here. They're quite large. They're almost 7 meters long, so a very large glass structure that lifts. And inside here, I mean, we're really happy about the appearance of the brick and that kind of actually pretty rough texture, which is the beauty of it, that it's it creates a lot of variation. But when you see the full kind of station space, I think it just creates like a really nice background for the station and for the passengers moving in and out. Another one, this one is placed actually inside a former churchyard that's being converted into a park now, and there's a station in there, and it has like a yellow wall. As you can see, that yellow wall needs some paint. It's not part of our project, but the yellow wall is a trademark, or it's something that people know the park by. So we wanted again to represent that by having a more even kind of brick. So compared to the station we saw before, where there was quite a big color difference, in this one we're trying to make something where the color is much more kind of even and much more neutral, but quite strong yellow than instead. And then this one, quite funnily, and I'm sure many of you who work with projects know that when you do a large project, there's some part of the project you're really happy about, and there's others that you don't think is going to be the best part of the project. And this station, for some reason, was one of them. But actually, I think what it turned out is that it's the one actually most happy about. And I think that comes down to the cladding. Just before we go to talking about the cladding, just mention that the stations on the project 17, 3 of them are placed in Frederiksberg municipality and the others are placed in Copenhagen. And this one is one of the Frederiksberg stations, and Frederiksberg is a bit more upmarket, and they like to have escalators all the way to the ground, and they like to have canopies over the entrances. So we designed canopies for those 3 stations, and that's what you see on the left-hand side. So it's a 12 meter canopy standing on one leg, so quite large cantilever. But inside the station, again, it's using a brick. But what we did with this one to create like a special sparkle, a special effect, was that we covered half of some of the bricks with a clear coat. So it's a very low tech solution in a way. But when you see how the light picks up those bricks, it's something we're really proud of, and everything works really well. And the photo on the left is a construction photo, but that's also really what it looks like, and it always changes during the day, and it changes the way depending on how you move into the station. And then that was about the stations, what happens underground, and then how do you connect back to the ground. So of course the main stair is the key interface, and we made this kind of folding geometry that you can see. So it goes from being quite wide inside the station to being quite narrow on the ground. We wanted to have like a minimal footprint on the side. It's not about creating a large architectural statement on ground. It's about making something that kind of fits into many different urban spaces. And this is the view that you see when you come out of the station. And for these exterior finishes, we used a granite stone that was cut to fit. And it just shows that you see different things. Some of them you just see the sky. Some of them, like this one, you see streets as you come out. This one is in the middle of the street, so you see here's a street light. And then there's a few special stations where we couldn't have that, and this is one of them where we created a really long escalator, because the station is placed under the canal, under the water, so you have to go down quite deep. And in that one we worked with the lighting, so we gave this kind of blue light to create some special effect, but all the light fixtures in the project can be color tuned, so they can be adjusted by day, but we can also do special effects, quite easy to program, like this one. And another special station, the one with the church, again, because of that special context, we couldn't have like a standard station, so we had to configure the escalators in a different way. And you see, we worked with the light, and that's something we did for all the escalators. We have light under the escalator, so the escalator itself works as a big light fixture, and in this one just creates quite dramatic effect as you move up through the station. And then I think this one is another favorite of ours. So this is the town hall. So we actually located the station on the town hall square in Copenhagen. So what you see when you come out of the station, and this is a station where many tourists enter Copenhagen, you actually see the town hall, and you probably know that all stations need to have a clock inside, so you can see what time it is. That's like all stations around the world always need a clock. And in this one, the clock is actually not the station clock. It's actually the clock on the town hall, which is quite well known in Denmark, that you can use. So again, there's a connection between what happens above ground and what happens below ground. And these are a few photos of some of the sites. You see the 3 skylights that during the day let light into the station, and during night they light up and creates a bit of light on the urban space. And we use them in different configurations. Some of them are fully glazed. This one has a solid side because of traffic impact. And again, we also place them in different layouts, you could say. Sometimes they're in a straight line, other times they're a bit offset, like this one, that creates some small pockets. And some of them, like this one I've shown already, there's a few of them have a canopy. All stations have the main stair and the lift tower really close together, so the lift tower also works as a station beacon. So whenever you see the lift tower, you know that's how you enter the station. And this one is set in a more green environment, park environment. And we also worked with kind of treating the urban spaces and the skylights as a place for activation. Some of these places used to be quite run down and nobody really using them before the metro. So for some of them we added benches like this one. So the skylights are not just a technical part of the metro that's necessary to keep it working. It's also something that brings life to the city. And then I think I'm just about at the end. This is a screen dump from Instagram, and it's just putting in hashtag Cityringen. So it's not our photos, it's a photo of the people, all the stakeholders that use the metro, and just by the number of people and the different posts that you put on, I think we somehow managed to make that connection, to talk back to those stakeholders that we interviewed in the beginning, because we can see that people actually appreciate the architecture, they appreciate the functionality of the project, and if you can make that connection, then I think you can really make urban transport and public transport popular, and you can change habits from people driving in cars inside the city to actually taking the metro. Thank you very much.
Så, tack Kristian. Nu har vi fått lära oss en massa här om Cityringen och alla stationerna, och superintressant och spännande. Så nu ska vi se här om vi har fått in några frågor till dig. Då har det kommit en fråga här, kan jag se hittills. Och den lyder: What was the most fun part of working on this project?
That is a good question. I think there was many fun parts. I think actually designing the stations as an architect, was good fun. You often think of projects like this as very technical, and you don't have a lot of creative freedom. But I think I think there is creative freedom if you have some, obviously need some very good engineers to collaborate with, because they need to support you. But I think there is freedom to do different things, and I think, you know, just this, the way we work with the shape of the skylights or the configurations of the stations, you know, as you can see from all the model photos with the cladding, that was really fun. You know, that was just, it was a very playful process. And of course, you know, in parallel with all this, we also did, you know, so many studies on location. All the tunnel engineers worked on the tunnel options, the fire engineers, you know, all, you know, the engineering disciplines are massive, you know, as you can imagine on a project like this. But I think that didn't limit actually, and that I think that's a credit also to the client, that they gave us the freedom to experiment architecturally.
Mm. Då har vi fått en till fråga här då. What about, ska vi se om jag uttalar det här rätt, ceramics, säger man så? And vandalism. It's kind of fragile, är det en som skriver och frågar om.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So our experience is that it's not that fragile. The ceramic panels that are sitting inside the station are extruded, so that it's not a tile. It's an extruded, quite heavy element, and you know, it has a coating that's I think they burn 2 or 3 times. So we think it's quite tough. Actually, it can resist a lot of impact. But the other thing we did is that the places where people typically come really close to the station, so that's on the concourse level, and on the platform level, there's either glass, because that's a quite good material in public spaces, and it's easy to replace and so on, or there's granite like on the stairs, which again is something that can take a lot of impact. So these panels, and also like the brick we're looking at here, is not something that people typically touch. It's more something they will look at, or maybe they'll throw something onto it and be cleaned. But it's, I mean, we've done testing, and we haven't until now had any experience that it shouldn't be a hard-wearing material, the ceramics. I don't know if that was kind of what the question was about.
Men det tycker jag absolut. Vi fick svar på frågan där. Och så har vi ytterligare här ändå. Which station is your favorite and why?
So that's like choosing between your children, which one you like the most. That's terrible. But no, I think I mean the reason why I put this photo in is because I like what we achieved in this station with something that was very simple. You know, a very, you know, that there's always something nice when you do a very large, very expensive, and very complex project, and then you find something that's very simple, like taking a brick and coating half of it with a clear coat, and that just creates a kind of magical effect inside the station. I think that was just a surprise, I think, for all of us, that it worked so well actually, and that it's something simple, because a lot of times you try to do something very complicated and very high tech, and this is, to a certain degree, it's low tech, even though it's high tech the way it's manufactured, the way you mount them and so on. I mean, there's not that many producers that could do this kind of thing, but the idea is low tech.
Mm. Och sen har jag en fråga då. Jag tänker på det här med höjden och solljuset som du pratade om. Solljuset som kommer in från glaset och toppen av stationen. Är det vanligt att bygga så, eller är det här unikt för Cityringen? Känner du till andra metrostationer där man har gjort på det här viset då?
I think it's probably when the first metro station in Copenhagen, when the first ones came out, it wasn't that common to have skylights. I think there's more around the world. I mean, I worked on a project in Melbourne where we have skylights. I think you can find them. You can find them other places on Cityringen. There's a small one on Cityringen at least, but not down to platform. It's down where the escalator goes down. Mm-hmm. So I think I'd like to say that, you know, more people, more architects are considering daylights in stations, but I think there's still, most stations are done without daylight. typically they're done as very deep stations and you don't have that direct connection. So.
Ja, det är väldigt vackert och ljust måste man säga. Speciellt i jämförelse med till exempel tunnelbanan i Stockholm.
Yeah, and I think it's also, I mean, of course, there's like a Nordic architectural tradition, I guess, from using daylight. But also one of the things that we talked a lot about was how can you kind of nudge people to behave better in stations? Because in Denmark, traditionally, you know, there's a, I don't know why, but you know, as soon as people go into a train station, they have to open a beer and start drinking, and nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it just means that the station becomes prone to a lot of vandalism and you know, not so nice place to hang out at night. And we wanted to make these stations maybe so they invite kind of a different kind of behavior, where you behave, you know, where there's less vandalism, I guess, where you feel more safe. And that's, I think that architecture is actually part of that. You design something nice and then people treat it nice.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So I don't think we have any more questions today, but I want to thank you so much for presenting Cityringen and presenting this webinar for us today. Till er andra så får ni hålla utkik efter nästa webinar som vi hoppas kunna hålla i januari. Så håll koll på sociala medier och i e-mailen så kommer vi ut med den informationen så småningom.
I would just like to say thanks to all of you, and you know, do come to Copenhagen, and you know, if anybody want to know more about the station, just send me an email or send Pernilla an email. She can send it to me. And you know, we're always happy to show the project around if you have a group of people coming and you want to see the stations. And you know, at the moment, because of COVID, there's a limit to what we can do. But as soon as things get back to normal, then happy to show the stations around. Thank you.
Then we'll come immediately. Looking forward to that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, and have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you. Tack. Hej då.
Bye.